Mercedes drops a bombshell on Max Verstappen and specifically Lewis Hamilton. So we're going to be going through that and 4 other stories in today's video. So don't forget to like this video, and if you want more F1 content like this, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. But let's get straight into the first story, because Max Verstappen's 2022 F1 title win addressed by Lewis Hamilton, who promised a new battle in 2023. Lewis Hamilton briefly congratulated Max Verstappen, but set the tone for their fierce rivalry to resume next season. Hamilton was never in the title race this season, as his Mercedes battled porpoising and performance issues, leaving Red Bull's Verstappen to romp home and eventually clinch glory at the F1 Japanese Grand Prix. The rivalry that peaked at the controversial 2021 Abu Dhabi Grand Prix may have a new chapter added in 2023 with renewed cars, Hamilton said. "Congrats to Max," he told Sky. "For us, we know what the problem are with our car. I believe that we, as a team, have not gone from world champions to not being able to build a good car. I have no doubts we will have a better car next year. Whether we rectify every issue that we face this year, we'll find out when we get there." So I think this is really important to actually understand, and because Hamilton did finish 5th at Suzuka after a 2-hour delay due to wet conditions. He opted not to give an opinion on Pierre Gasly's incident with the recovery vehicle, merely saying everyone will comment on it, so I don't care too. Hamilton said about the racing in the wet, "The conditions restarting, it was awesome. That's what motor racing is about. I had a blast. It was tough, so hard to see, really hard with the car skating around. The restart was perfect timing. I wish we could have gone longer. I don't feel frustrated. It was a sprint race. I'm happy we got points. We are just slow in a straight line. As soon as I pulled out, they would pull away. I'm glad we got in some laps for the fans. On to the next one." So I absolutely love the positivity that Lewis Hamilton is showing, and he does have a lot to say about Max Verstappen actually winning his Drivers' Championship, as Lewis Hamilton knows he is going to be coming after him next season. But Lewis Hamilton wasn't the only one that had something to say. Max Verstappen also actually concluded saying a lot of different things. The young 2-time world champion has shared thoughts about his retirement, and Max Verstappen, who just won his 2nd title as a World Drivers' Championship at the Japanese Grand Prix last weekend, claimed that he has a set deadline for his F1 career. Max Verstappen believes that he has a lot that he wants to achieve, and his desire for achievements isn't limited to F1 only. Max said that he wouldn't want to be someone who is 35 and still racing, and this hints at the fact that Max may potentially retire by 2032 or earlier. But was this a shot at Lewis Hamilton at the same time? On this subject, Max shared, "It's not about the number of championships or whatever, it's also a quality of life. I have a contract until 2028. I'll be 31, so I don't know about if we're heading into this direction with more and more races. Do I really want to continue this until I'm like 35? Probably not. There's so many more fun things as well I want to do outside of Formula 1, and I don't want to be traveling almost my whole year being away from family and friends." And I completely agree with where he is coming from. Some people are just built different, where they're able to sacrifice everything and put themselves first. Others prefer to live a lifestyle such as Max Verstappen, and no one is really right in that sense. Obviously Lewis Hamilton will go down as one of the greats, and maybe Max Verstappen may just be a glimpse of a 5-year, 10-year span where he is just absolutely dominant. Now, Max further added that he is dedicated and focused and sees himself doing this for at least until his contract ends. However, he'd then like to tally which direction he'd like to go in. He says he loves being home. Staying on the move constantly away from home gets a bit painful. Lewis Hamilton, on the other hand, is hyper focused on getting his next title and wants the undisputed title of the best driver of all time. Sharing a record with the legend Michael Schumacher, the 7-time world champion, Lewis Hamilton has considered retirement prior to 30, however he feels differently about that now. Lewis Hamilton shared very similar plans to the Dutch Lion. He claimed he'd walk away from the race life before he hits 30. Now, fast forward to today, Hamilton stresses how he wouldn't leave anytime soon. He claims he wants to drive to Mercedes till the day he dies. On the subject of retirement, he said, "I'm thinking about what are the steps I need to take to get this team winning again. What is the roadmap on winning another world championship?" The Mercedes man said that he still desires these goals and has a lot left in him, and he will continue to push his limits until he feels burnt out or has nothing left to give anymore. And I think this is very important to actually understand. Obviously, Max Verstappen and the things that he has said may change as the future comes. However, when it comes to Lewis Hamilton continuing to race, I definitely think one of the main reasons is he definitely wants to win that 8th in order to cement himself as one of the greatest drivers of all time. Now, Lewis Hamilton also, moving on to the next story, Hamilton has not been awarded Max Verstappen's 2021 title despite Red Bull's breach of F1 spending cap. So this was kind of the main talking point of everything as of going on right now, and obviously Mercedes are not happy. Another FIA found Red Bull guilty of breaching Formula 1 spending cap, and Max Verstappen can breathe a slight air of relief after it was revealed that he won't be stripped of last year's F1 title he controversially won on the last day of the season. A few days ago, news broke about the Dutch driver will be stripped of the 2021 title, but punishment for breaching the budget cap will not be severe. On top of all this, FIA released their findings on Monday and revealed that 2 teams breached the cap but are currently determining appropriate action. The sports governing body FIA said the breach was minor. According to the BBC, Red Bull and Aston Martin were found guilty of breaching the budget cap. Verstappen's Red Bull exceeded 2021 145 million cap by less than 5%. Therefore, Red Bull swiftly rejected FIA's finding that they exceeded the limit. Our 2021 submission was below the cost cap limit, so we need to carefully review the FIA's findings, as our belief remains that the relevant costs are under the 2021 cost cap amount. Now, I think this is kind of saddening because I do think, if they did go over budget, which they actually said, or the FIA did say, and obviously there is still a little bit of back and forth, if they did go over, that definitely could have given them an advantage, especially in that last race. Lewis Hamilton, as we all know, was at the front and he definitely could have won. Now, could there have been other things that also affected whether he won the Drivers' Championship or not? Yes and no, but I do think the budget cap is a big thing. Now, possible penalties for the breach is a reprimand, deduction of Verstappen's and/or Constructors' Championship points for the 2021 season, suspension, limitations on aerodynamic or other testing. The team cost cap could also be reduced. Top bosses at Mercedes and Ferrari are believed to have called minor misleading, as any breach of the cap will still lead to a performance benefit. And he has mentioned this time and time again. Toto Wolff said even an extra 100k to his car that he could have added to Lewis Hamilton would have had him smoke in the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. So it's little things like that, like yes, it may be under 5 million, which is under 5%. However, at the end of the day, guys, 3 or 4 million is still 3 or 4 million, and that can do a lot for a car. The title decider looks set to be postponed for the next Grand Prix in the United States after Charles Leclerc finished second. However, the Ferrari driver was given a 5-second penalty for straying off the line towards the end, which eventually had Verstappen claim the victory. So there's a lot to it, and I do think despite everything that is going on, there is a lot to discover. Now, moving on to the third story, we actually have from George Russell, who wants Mercedes to sit down after Silver Arrows make the worst decision ever. George Russell wants a review with his Mercedes team after a decision which he feels cost him points at the Japanese Grand Prix. Now, obviously, Russell isn't in the running to win anymore because, Max Verstappen did win that, but I do think it will set them up for a great future if they get this sorted now. The Brit finished 8th at Suzuka, 3 places behind his teammate Lewis Hamilton overall, and it was another rather forgettable weekend for the team after similarly uninspiring results at the Singapore Grand Prix a week earlier. Russell believes he could have done a lot better in Japan had it not been for a strategy decision made by the team. It came just after the rolling restart, as what would have been truncated race finally got going after a 2-hour delay because of the torrential rain. Many teams took the decision to pit amongst straight away to swap onto intermediate tires with track conditions improving. Now, on top of all this, Mercedes were one of them, calling Hamilton and Russell in at the same time for a double stack. Russell had been running 6th but lost time waiting for a few seconds in the pit lane while his teammates' tires were changed. It cost him time and places and caused him to angrily declare over the radio afterwards that it was the worst decision we ever made. He was still clearly quite miffed about it after the race, as he told reporters he would be seeking a sit down with his team to talk about why they chose to make that decision. "We need to review what went on," a visibly irritated Russell said. "I was right behind Lewis, and double stacking, I was just going to lose all the positions. Not really much more to say. Very frustrating afternoon, probably could have fought for P5. It was quite enjoyable out there, made some good overtakes, but we need to sit down with the team and see what we could have done better. That was probably at the time the not right thing to do." And I completely agree with what he actually has to say. I think it wasn't really a great idea to actually double stack, and they should have just let Russell do one more lap before coming into box. Now, obviously, there would be a time where he's on wets and everyone else is on intermediate, so they may catch up to him. However, I think he would have had a better shot, and he also will be able to make a lot of gains when it comes to them boxing and him being able to take off continuing, and hopefully the team can actually box him faster than to get out there. So I think that probably would have been the best move for them, and it was hard to see what was actually going on. So getting into story 4 is Nick de Vries is set to sever ties with Mercedes as he will replace Pierre Gasly at AlphaTauri for 2023 F1 season. Nick de Vries signed with Mercedes in 2019 with the hopes of driving in F1. The Dutchman was allowed to test the car and has been a reserve driver for the Silver Arrows for 3 years. The $5 million net worth driver was always hopeful of breaking into F1, but the sport has been extremely difficult for drivers to break into. And when George Russell was named as a replacement for Valtteri Bottas, the decision was clear. De Vries was snubbed for the Williams seat as it went to Alex Albon, and the Dutchman was only given a couple of test runs with Mercedes. Mercedes team principal Toto Wolff earlier stated that they were happy with Nick, but the Austrian said he can't help the 27-year-old find an F1 seat and will have to let him go. Thus, De Vries took his future into his own hands, and in 2023 he will be moving to Red Bull's B team, AlphaTauri, to replace the Alpine-bound Pierre Gasly. So I think this is honestly huge, and I think it's great for Nick de Vries. Obviously, it would have been fantastic to see him in a Mercedes seat. However, guys, that's definitely not possible with Russell and Hamilton already there. Now, Mercedes technical director Mike Elliott said, "I think for us as a team, it's a shame to see him go somewhere else, but at the same time, we're really pleased for him. It's nice to see a driver with the talent he's got getting that opportunity." He adds, "What I see is a really nice guy, but a guy that's very knowledgeable, who understands the sport, understands engineering in the car." Nick de Vries can also test for AlphaTauri, as Nick de Vries got a chance to test for all Mercedes power teams. He replaced Williams' Alex Albon for the Italian Grand Prix, and Mercedes' Lewis Hamilton for the French Grand Prix, and Aston Martin Sebastian Vettel for the Italian Grand Prix as well. So he is honestly going to have a great career ahead of him, and I think it is honestly fantastic to see him given an opportunity. Hopefully one day he may come back to Mercedes where it all started and maybe replace, Hamilton or Russell in the future. But for now, I think it's great to see what Nick de Vries is doing and continuing to develop as time goes on as he gets an F1 seat. So thanks so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you soon. Peace.